My list this week was top 5 movie detectives. So doesn't necessarily have to be murder specific. I kind of leaned more towards that route with kind of the staying in that kind of murdery world. So I had for my number 5, I don't have any honorable mentions. My number 5 greatest movie detectives, Eddie Valiant from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Nice.
When I think of like a detective, like who's a detective in a movie, for whatever reason, that's the first guy that I think of. So, just like the whole like gumshoe, like when he's in his like office, like drinking, and he's got like newspapers and his little scotch glass that he's using as a magnifying glass. Like there's like everything about being a detective in a movie is in that scene. So I had Eddie Valiant. And then number 4, I mentioned him a little bit earlier, but I had Benoit Blanc as my my number 4 greatest movie detective. He is in Knives Out, and then he's also in Glass Onion, which just came out like I think on Christmas Eve last year. Very much similar movie franchise as like A Murder on the Orient Express, Haunting in Venice. It's a super like just really weird and goofy character. Daniel Craig, also known as James Bond to most, plays Benoit Blanc. And he's really great. Both movies are super different, but his character, like he leans into it and he crushes it. So
he's like the modern day Hercule Poirot. Benoit Blanc.
Yes, he literally. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of parallels, and that's clearly where the inspiration came for the character. But he's like the modern version. He's a little bit more flamboyant than Hercule Poirot. That's not what I was saying. He was flamboyant.
No, but Ryan Johnson said he is. So
yes, I mean more of like there are moments where he really like gets a lot of energy, and he just kind of like opens up, and he's just like he's loud and kind of funny. In Knives Out, he's a little bit more reserved, but definitely in Glass Onion, he's a little bit kind of crazy. So, and it probably has more to do with why can't I think? Edward Norton is the one of the main characters in Glass Onion, like main like characters directly across from him. So it's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, which I don't think you have, you should check out Glass Onion. So great mystery, great whodunit kind of movie. So go check it out. And then number 3, we've been talking about this man all night. I have got Hercule Poirot. Now, this one was hard because I'm not really speaking specifically to one version. Yeah. This character is, I mean, you mentioned it. There's a million old timey movies. There's there's the Amazon ABC Murders with John Malkovich playing him. There's so many people that have played him very differently, but there's something cool about like a world famous detective that like everyone knows, and he only takes the cases that where it's an impossible find, and he always figures it out. So I've got Hercule Poirot as my number 3 greatest movie detectives. Number 2, this one, everyone judge me. This might be me being biased. You could say he shouldn't be on this list or not, but I had Rick Deckard. This is Han Solo playing in Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. He is essentially a detective or a Blade Runner who is trying to find these 3 basically rogue cyborgs, or I forget what they call them in particular in Blade Runner, but it's like this sci-fi cyberpunk 80s synth vibes, and Harrison Ford just freaking crushes it as this like gumshoe in the future. They didn't. The newer one is less like that old school gumshoe vibes, but like when the original movie came out in theaters, they even had Harrison Ford basically like narrating the whole movie throughout, which not a lot of people remember. But like kind of like those old detective noir movies where like the detective never says anything, but like you hear him talking over as like, she walked to the door and the moon was out, like that kind of vibe. Like the that's how the original Blade Runner came out. That's the best version, is the director's cut. But anyways, I got Rick Deckard as my number 2 greatest movie detective, and then number 1. This man is this character, which is weird to say because there's another character that we all see him only as. But I've got one Robert Downey Jr. as one Sherlock Holmes. Man, freaking Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock is like a home run.
It was.
He was so good. And I wish they would come out with another one. But like we talked a little bit last week about the Equalizer when he like slows down time and he's kind of like assessing the room. Like that, when Sherlock does that in like the first movie and he like is saying out loud like the things he's gonna break and the like who's gonna move where and the calculations of him taking out a room, it's fucking awesome. And he is super cool as Sherlock Holmes. So Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock Holmes, my number 1 movie detective of all time. I got some really wild curveballs in there, but I think some of those are also like all-time greats. So I'll stand by it.
Pretty good. So I actually do have an honorable mention because it's a little bit of cheating because it's a TV character that they made a movie out of this year. So an honorable mention, I have DCI John Luther, played by Idris Elba. If you've never watched the show Luther, it's amazing. And you all probably know Idris Elba is amazing and should be in everything. Like everything. Yeah. It is.
2020 sexiest man or something, right?
Yeah, something like that, right? Like I was runner-up again. But they made a movie. It was called Luther: The Fallen Sun, which was actually released earlier this year. And is on Netflix, but it was released in theaters before it was on Netflix. But there's five series of the Luther TV show, but highly recommend. He's awesome. At number 5, I had Ace Ventura. At number 5.
Oh, I looked at that and I even thought about it. I did think about that.
Listen, this is my list, and this is what I enjoy. There are great detectives in movie history that have come from, literary and whatnot. And there's Inspector Clouseau and Pink Panther, and there's Philip Marlowe and all of his series. But I'm picking Ace Ventura at number 5 because I think Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura is hilarious. Those two movies are like all-time 90s, like just goofball comedy. The first Ace Ventura really, I think, was Jim Carrey's big break because I think he made that, and then The Mask came out like immediately afterwards, and then Dumb and Dumber came out, and Jim Carrey was now a superstar like immediately after that. So
I freaking love both of those movies equally and separately. I
like the first one a lot more than the second one, but they are both have their redeeming qualities.
Yes.
Number 4, I have John Shaft as played.
Nice.
John Shaft as played by multiple characters. I never saw the newest iteration of Shaft where it was like third generation after Samuel L. Jackson, and
there's been a more recent one since Samuel.
Yeah, there was. I'm pulling it up. But yeah, so it was the original Richard Roundtree Shaft, and then there was the like 2000s 2000. I mean, there was, what was there? Shaft's Big Score, Shaft in Africa.
Jesse T. Usher?
Yeah. And then and that was it was like Samuel Jackson's nephew. I don't remember, but I never saw it. But anyway,
was it in the same realm, like the same movie? Like it was in the same universe as the Samuel L. Shaft?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What? Sorry, continue. I'm listening.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it came out like 2019. It's the guy that plays he was, oh my gosh, he was like, I don't know his name. What's his name? Jesse T. Usher.
Oh, I remember.
He's the speedster in the show The Boys. It's that guy.
Oh yeah,
Jesse T. Usher. He's and then Richard Roundtree and freaking Samuel Jackson are in it too. So it's a sequel.
I was like, wait, they got all three of them in it. Wild.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. Anyway,
wild.
Anyway, I've shafted number 4. The original Shaft is awesome, and then the Samuel L. Jackson remake also awesome. He's just a badass. Let's be real.
Who's the famous famous white guy bad guy in Samuel L.'s Shaft before he got big? Christian Bale. He was so good as a fucking dickhead bad guy.
Oh yeah, he's awful. Super racist too, but yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, very racist.
Very racist. Number 3, I had like we said, the guy we've been talking about all night, Hercule Poirot at number 3. For all the reasons we've already talked about numerous times. The
mustache, both having him at number 3.
The mustache probably puts him. That's what puts him at 3.
Higher.
Is the mustache? Yeah. And then at number 2, I had Dirty Harry Callahan.
Oh, nice.
Famously portrayed by Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry series. Dirty Harry. This is out of order. I'm trying to remember what they're called. Dirty Harry.
Do you feel lucky?
Deadpool.
Well,
the Deadpool was the last one. Man, I think the second one is the one that's the best one too, because the original Dirty Harry's good. Gosh, what's the second one?
You know, I'm gonna be frank with you.
You've never seen him.
Obviously, I know the famous parts from that movie, but I've never seen those movies.
You've never seen,
and I never.
So the first one was Dirty Harry. The second one was Magnum Force. The third one was The Enforcer. The fourth one was Sudden Impact, and the Deadpool was the fifth one. There's 5 of them.
What makes him the second best detective to you? What about him?
You've never seen him. You don't even know. You can't even talk about it.
I know. That's why I'm asking. I'm not saying that.
They're all
cool.
So I base this mostly on Magnum Force. So Dirty Harry takes place in San Francisco, and it's very much based on Zodiac. And Dirty Harry's like this. He's basically like the detective that's got to try and figure out who's killing these people, and he's going to do whatever it takes to figure it out. So he bends the law to get there, right?
Dirty comes from. He's a dirty cop.
Well, yeah, Dirty Harry, right? And then Magnum Force is, I think, the one with there's these motorcycle cops that are killing people, and he's got to figure out who these dirty cops are that are murdering people. And it's an awesome freaking movie. And there's this big shootout at the end with where he's like fighting these dirty cops and stuff. It's a badass movie. But anyway, yeah, Clint Eastwood is a badass as a cowboy.
Confirmed.
He's even more of a badass as freaking Dirty Harry. You got to at least see the original, I think. If not, it's worth a watch.
I have gone back and watched like A Man with No Name and all those movies.
Those are great, yeah.
Within the last couple of years of these are classics that I've never seen. I need to watch them.
Yeah,
so
they're very.
I'll do that.
It's worth a watch, and if we ever want to watch Dirty Harry, man, I'll sit down and watch Dirty Harry. I've got all of them. They're awesome movies.
I don't think anything would make me feel more like my granddad than doing that, but in honor of them. And not wanting to say that I'm too young for that, I would love to watch those old movies.
Because I mean, you can watch a 70s detective kind of movie, right? Hercule Poirot's a 40s freaking detective movie. There's nothing that says you can't watch 70s.
It's a good point. I think 70s though is like the time frame of movies like that I just am not about. No, I guess that's not that I'm not about it, but not necessarily my favorite.
I get what you're saying. I pick up.
I like the 80s vibes. I like
yep.
early, like roaring 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. And you get like the 60s and 70s, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to sort of see the hippie stuff.
I would say this, like the 70s all have this very, like most of the movies have this very like, kind of gritty vibe about them. And I'm thinking of like some of the most, like think about the classic movies that come out of the 70s, like The Godfather, right?
That's a good point.
Come out of the 70s. Like, have you ever seen like Serpico or like Dog Day Afternoon or any of those? Like they're all very, you know what I'm talking about? You ever seen those? Like
Star Wars came out in the 70s. I know that.
Yeah, that doesn't really take place in the 70s. Maybe it does. Well, anyway, yeah. It's
was Taxi Driver? Was Taxi in?
Yeah,
Taxi Driver. 70s.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, 70s. Okay.
Yeah. So Taxi Driver. Yes, very much so. Anyway, number one, Sherlock Holmes. The number one. Like the Robert Downey Jr. version, like is everything you said it was. It's awesome. It's so fun to watch. Guy Ritchie does a great job of directing it. Robert Downey Jr. is awesome anyway. He does a great job of portraying Sherlock Holmes in a very distinct manner. But Sherlock Holmes he's like Hercule Poirot. He's been portrayed by a lot of different people very well. Okay, but like when I think about Sherlock, it's Robert Downey Jr. and it's Benedict Cumberbatch, and like that's it.
I was just going to say Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock is amazing.
It's amazing.
That show is one of the best shows ever.
Yes,
literally. If you haven't seen the show Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch,
yes,
it is his best work. My wife was obsessed with that show. We like the second we put it on, we binged all the way through. I love that we got to bring up that show because I don't think it gets enough credit for how amazing it was.
Right.
But
no, you're absolutely right.
Not to take that off the rails.
You're like, listen, and like that version of Sherlock is very modern day. Martin Freeman plays Watson. He's fantastic as Watson.
Yes.
Like some of the storylines are great, like in that series. And this is British TV is very different than American TV. Like each season is short. It's it's a few episodes. They tell it's very like a long form movie, right? That's kind of how they do it.
Yes,
Luther's the same way. Like... If when I was talking about Luther, it's the same way. It's very similar. Luther's a lot. Luther's kind of darker because there's a lot more like blood and stuff. And he's even crazier than Sherlock in some of the things he does. But Sherlock's it's great though. Cumberbatch is fantastic. Yeah,
they did I don't know if you knew this, but they actually did. So their episodes are like an hour and a half. They literally are like movies.
It's like a mini series almost. Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yeah, and each season's only like 3 or 4 episodes, so it's really easy to fucking get through.
Yes.
They did a special of like I forget something Bride, but basically they did all of the actors and characters from Sherlock, and they did back in the original time period of like the
I did know that.
Jr. Sherlock. So
I did know that. Yeah, even with the old-fashioned hat and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, it was like a Christmas special, and it's actually fucking scary. Like it was kind of like a horror.
Was it the Hounds of the Baskervilles?
No, it's called something Bride, but I don't know if maybe that's the story of it. But it's very it's very like Jack the Ripper vibes.
Yeah.
And like there's like a bride that was murdered and she is...
I can't remember if I watched that or not because I've seen every season of Sherlock and I was trying to think if I watched that or not because I think I've watched it. Like in my head I've watched it, but I don't remember it. But I swear I've watched it.
Yeah, it didn't come... It's called The Abominable Bride and it didn't come out during a season. It was like... God, she looks fucking horrifying.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see it. She looks fucking terrifying. She looks like the Joker, straight like red lips. So like Sherlock is a show that they like do a season and then they say, all right, the next season's gonna be in like fucking 3 years. It's like literally they go like 3 or 4 years between the next season, and they just randomly dropped The Abominable Bride in like between like 2 years between a season, and it was like a huge deal in our household because it was like my wife and I were like super pumped for it. And it came out during Christmas time. It's cool to see all of the characters from the modern Sherlock back in like original Sherlock Holmes like setting.
Yes.
So super cool. Bilbo Baggins is fucking awesome as Watson. Anyways,
Martin Freeman's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my top 5 movie detectives.
Nice. I wish we would get another Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock. Like
I would too, and I would like them to.
Is that out of the question?
No, because there was rumors they had talked about doing another one, and like I think Guy Ritchie was like super busy, and they were trying to make it work. I think it's gonna happen. I would say it's 50-50 right now, because obviously Sherlock Holmes is something you don't have to age out of.
Yeah.
You know, and I think both Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. said, yeah, if the script's right, we'll do another one. You know,
and which like who was the Watson in that? It was Jude Law.
It was Jude Law, and he was great too. And then as far as the Cumberbatch one, I think that's something a lot of people have been clamoring for, and him and Martin Freeman have kind of said like, nah, we did it long enough, and I think we're done.
Yeah,
you know, kind of.
I think that's accurate. The public wants it, and they're like,
right,
we were gonna do it 3 years later, but now we have all. They fucking skyrocketed in fame like at the same time. So,
but Idris did too, and then he came back and made a movie. You know, and I would like to see him do that with Sherlock. It'd be great if they did, and that's what kind of Abominable Bride was, kind of that. Maybe that was probably their send off. But you know, there was I remember when Infinity War came out, Avengers Infinity War came out, and there's all the banter between Doctor Strange and Iron Man on the ship, right, when they're heading to Titan. And I remember there was somebody was like, they really missed the opportunity for Iron Man to say, "No shit, Sherlock."
Dude.
You know, in that conversation, which would have been pretty awesome.
That a lot of people would have fucking awesome.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, cool now that I didn't really connect those dots until you say it right now, but I'm like, oh shit, yeah, the two best Sherlocks like of all time were multiple movies together. So
obviously, at least the modern ones, but I mean, they are. I'm not gonna lie.
They're fucking great. That's the show that we'll go back and like rewatch. Like there's not very many shows that's like, all right, we've already seen this, but we're gonna go back and watch it again.
Man, and the guy that played Moriarty in the Cumberbatch, he's awesome. Like that guy doesn't do much. He's not in a lot of stuff, but damn, he was awesome as Moriarty in that show.
Dude, fucking unhinged, but like crazy genius.
Psychopath,
very Joker vibes in Sherlock. The one that is in the movies, what's that actor's name?
Oh, it's Jared something or another, isn't it?
I like him too as an actor. He he's one of those guys that you see him in a million movies and you're like, oh yeah, I know him, but I just don't know his name on the top of my head.
Yeah, I know it's Jared. Like Jared something, because he's in a ton. Yeah, he's in a ton of stuff. Hold on, I'm looking it up real now.
He was in Mad Men too. His character like kills himself, unalives himself.
He was in he was in Chernobyl. Did you see that miniseries?
Yes, but he was the main character. Yeah. Oh, dude, Chernobyl was freaking awesome. Yeah. Best scary horror TV show that's not supposed to be a horror show. It's
correct. And Mark Strong was the bad guy in the first Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. Mark Strong was the bad guy, and that was before he was super famous. Jared Harris was Moriarty, and he's Richard Harris's son. Richard Harris was
come on, world.
Jared Harris.
No, you can't see Richard. It's not gonna
Richard Harris was what all was he in? Man Called Horse. He was Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potters. He was in Unforgiven. That's who Richard Harris was. But yeah, that's Jared Harris.
Jared Harris has been in a million fucking movies.
A million movies. But yeah, like
I
you
should
said,
know his name.
He's one of those guys that like I know who he is, but you know, he's not.
Yeah, the second, like Chernobyl,
famous.
I think is a good one because he literally like carried that whole show.
I know we're trying to get to the end of the episode, but that might be one of the greatest TV series of all time.
Dude, Chernobyl was
phenomenal. Anyway,
yeah, that was a bingeable show. All right, well, we gave you a ton of great shows to watch, people. If you haven't watched Sherlock or Chernobyl, it's
Luther.
time. Luther. I haven't seen Luther.
Badass.
So maybe that's
it's so bad. And again, it's just like Sherlock. Like if Steph likes Sherlock, you guys would like Luther. And it's Idris, and they're short, right? Like some of the seasons are like 3 episodes, so you can get through it fast.